by two, 7 rows deep, and rolling up to the start-finish line. It looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside.
As they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn one, and electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move.
But MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into town row, it's a big clash. It's a big clash between the two title contenders.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to our debut Simufur iRacing Porsche Cup series. My name is Denak, Kalmari, joined by Wolfen, Ravenloft, and Maurer here in the broadcast to commentate the first round of the series in the Virginia International Raceway. Plenty of newcomers and seasoned veterans have joined us for the series, which will undoubtedly bring some very exciting racing for this live stream to be coming up.
Yeah, super excited to be here. It's been over a year since we've done this. And I know the last time we did it, it was very popular, and it was in a different sim that time. It was an AC, it was in the set of Porsche, but this time we are here at iRacing with the new Porsche Cup update. So things are definitely going to be interesting. I actually drove these cars a few days ago. They are very fun to drive, even for a guy like me. And it should definitely bring in some very interesting racing.
Interesting racing, interesting cars, and a very interesting track. We have opted to do our very first round of the series in the Virginia International Raceway, which is an extremely technical track, as we're going to be watching here along with Katie Timmerfox. You can already see there's a big gaggle of cars going around there. I think it's going to be going through NASCAR Bend now towards the left hook into that snake section. So very narrow around here. You can also see a little bit of water on the track here. But yeah, very narrow track for the most part. So overtaking is going to be definitely a challenge here. And because we have a lot of newcomers for this series, for iRacing in general, I think there could be, I mean, fingers crossed there's not going to be any incidents, but I feel like there's going to be maybe a couple of bold sense to be made in places where you probably shouldn't be sticking your nose in. I mean, you can see here, right, going up to the, what I would like to call the triple O roof section here, left, right, up the hill here, over towards the southern bend, towards the oak tree section here. You can just see, so narrow, you can see Katie Timberbox going there off the track there, so really hard to find any overtaking opportunities, but, so it definitely got to be yeah. Quite a race to behold for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I know a lot of people are not huge fans of this track, but I actually don't mind it. At least when it comes to like slower cars like Miatas or anything. Porsche Cup, it definitely will be interesting. Um, as we see that the practice has officially ended, we will now be getting into qualifying. And I will say with the full layout, it is a lot of fun. I've done the mini layout as well in normal like in normal iRacing races, and I don't know. I just kind of I don't know. Maybe it's the aesthetic. Maybe it's just me being slightly biased. But it is a fun little track as we follow on board now with Jordan Johnson, who's now heading out for his out lap to get ready to make some laps of his own. You can see that the track is still a little bit wet. It was predicted that this stuff was going to be, well, yeah, it was. We were predicting that this track was going to be a little bit drier, but this will definitely make qualifying a little bit more interesting because you can see in certain spots, you can see the puddles there as we see Jordan go straight through one of those puddles, and it should hopefully clear up within the next, I hope, few minutes. But it will definitely make qualifying easier once things dry up.
Yes, there was a brief rain shower that happened just before we got over to this race session here, and the puddles have stuck around for the qualifying session here. So with Jordan Johnson not doing their outlap here, it's definitely going to be slowing things cars down here. But with about 20 minutes to go, there's going to be plenty of time for the track to be drying, and hopefully there to be a more better dry line here. But you can already see on the outlap. Jordan Johnson is not a fit at all. They're just going full send, full push here, trying to get their tires warm as much as possible here. Now going down into the final roller coaster section towards the Hawk Bend, getting ready for their first lap here. I'm going to be here to do a first commentary of our first onboard lap around Virginia International Raceway. Going now into the long main straight and unleashing the power of that Porsche 911 Cup car, the new one with traction control and ABS here. So no worries about locking up the tires. Now going down, trying to find that braking point, going down into turn one, that big horseshoe with a very awkward late apex there, carrying a lot of speed there. A nice tidy line now, unleashing the full power there, just trying to be mindful of those puddles all around the circuit. They're going to be very much causing havoc here. They're going to be late on the brakes, going down to the NASCAR bend, a late apex again, unleashing the power, so we can get drifting all the way out wide. Now over to the left hook there, just trying to balance the car here, just getting it sliding around quite a lot there. Now going to be very carefully balancing out the power, going through to the snake section here, left, right, left again, before we're going to be going for this very brief section here, before we're going to be heading over the triple O Rouge section here. Again, going left, then again right, and then left up the hill here, just almost taking off on that little bend there as well. Tap of the brakes are going up into the south bend, and then again, tap of the brakes go down to the fifth gear, to the fourth gear, quite wide, almost on the grass. They're going down into the oak tree section here, 11, 12, trying to get that car hooked up right tight with a massive exit there onto the big back straight here, with a bit of traffic ahead of them, but they should not hopefully be interfering. Jordan Johnson's lap time go over here. Plenty of time to be had there. So again, just going up the gears, so just trying to find that blind crest. They're trying to find the right braking point here. Again, there should not be a chicane section, but we're going to be not running that to that here. Now going to be back on the brakes, going down into the big, very bouncy, very slidey roller coaster section here. Just trying to get that car balanced again. Unleashing the power over those big puddles there, which again is just going to be causing havoc on the laptop here. But it seems like Jordan's going to be getting the car nice and well behaved here. Again, big dip into the Hawkman again, now unleashing the power here. A bit of wiper action there, trying to get the spray cleared up all their monitor here. So that was a very strong opening lap here with a 150.385, if I'm incorrect. Indeed, that was actually now it's going to be the first proper lap here. That was going to be 146.1. So a very strong start for Jordan Johnson.
Absolutely. We were expecting good times from Jordan. This is one of his favorite series as we follow along now with Philip Beckevold heading down toward for his second attempt at a lap. It was originally P3, but it just got bumped by Guiando and then Wanev as well with I couldn't see the time in time, but you can see the times are starting to come in, and it's definitely making things very interesting. But you see Jordan Johnson with a solid 1 second gap between him and the second place driver of Toomby. Hopefully later on times will improve. As I say that, yes, we do. Electroshops with a 147.036. Very good times. You can see I think later down the line we're going to see these times definitely improve. So hopefully this will make things a little bit more interesting as we see Philip get a little bit wide going out of Oak Tree. As now following Wushel, who I believe that's not NASCAR Bend. Oh no, she is coming out of the last corner, heading down for their first lap. Let's see where it puts them. It is. I cannot see. Yeah, third.
Yeah, that's going to be 147.266. So a very strong time from Saram and people here, but still they're over a second of Jordan Johnson's dominant first lap there, 146.1, with only Electroshock surprisingly being there in P2 at the moment here. So I think they were able to find a little bit more traction around this very slidey, kind of wet track here compared to everybody else, which it's now going to be improved by Philip Beckerboy. So you can see the times are just tumbling down the order here as the track is getting drier, more grippy. So our drivers are going to be getting a much better, much faster lap times around here, as you saw with Philip Beckerbold. And yeah, you can see there's still a lot of puddles around here. So I think we're going to be seeing our best lap times towards the final few minutes.
Yeah, I agree. And that was over a second to Jordan's time. So that means it's definitely going to be, these puddles are definitely going to be a bit of a hindrance to some people until it dries up. Hopefully, it will dry up near the end. You can see that the sun is out. So eventually, these puddles should, operative word B, should go away and we will have a nice dry racetrack for everybody as we see Philip go very wide going into the Oak Tree section. Now heading into Oak Tree, nice and clean. But now we are on board with uh, Peschetti heading down toward their for their last. It looks like it's going to be a fair bit improvement. Um, let's see. They were P16 then. Let's see where they end up now. No time gained. Super unfortunate.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. I know Panu Paskati is one of the very seasoned iRacing drivers here, and most of the top half of the grid here are very seasoned drivers in iRacing. Philip Beckavo, Jordan Johnson, Sarban Fiepel, and Toomby. All of them have been driving iRacing for several years at this point, and Jordan Johnson there again, a big improvement to a 44.8, a couple of tenths faster than Philip Beckavo at the moment here. But yeah, actually, the first person that I know is quite new to iRacing in general, that would be Vossi Tikris, currently sitting in P5, followed by Myrsk Lohikärle in P6 here. They're both they both acquired iRacing, or actually no, only Vossi Tigris acquired iRacing specifically to join for the Porsche Cup series because Vossi Tigris is one of those huge Porsche fanatics, and they seem to be enjoy themselves pretty well there. They're not too far off from the I guess you would call non-aliens of the Grand Prix, only a couple of tenths off Sarvan Friedland's
Non-aliens.
current time of a 146.2. So they seem to be doing pretty well there.
Yeah, I agree. And also, thank you for saying those names. I could not for the life of me be able to say those names,
Yeah, you're
even if
gonna
you put
have
a
some
gun to my.
fun time with all the Finnish names around here. Panu Siitonen,
Yeah,
Myrsk
gee, thanks.
Lohikärle.
Let's yeah, let's have the dumb American try to say these Finnish names. It's not going to end well.
I mean, it wasn't that much better in the previous series where Myrsk Lohikärle was participating in our mainland ACC GT3 season, and I was cringe in there in the in the background there whenever anybody tried to say their name here. But yeah, going back to our
I
qualifying here, we do see another big improvement coming up from Christian Klippert, who was also surprisingly getting themselves into P5 there with a pretty strong 146.7. So looks like to be a lot of Germans here on the top half of the grid. Actually, let me double check. Yeah, there's Germans from P3 all the way down to P6. So I guess makes sense. German car, German racing series. So all the Germans are
well,
going to be at the top.
well, you say that, and immediately, our Fischetti immediately steals P3. Again, you will not get me to try to say that and botch it horribly. Um, and it is they just split up the German group there, and now we are on board now with Parker Olsen as they head down the roller coaster with a improving time. It looks like now heading down toward the last corner, and let's see if this is going to be an improvement. And the answer is I forget how far away the start finish line is here.
It is quite far down the pit lane there,
Yeah,
yeah. Also,
yeah,
surprisingly
there it
enough, they
is,
decided
P8.
to rename themselves to Parker Olsen Olsen. So, like some weird double marriage thing. I guess we'll have to ask Parker Olsen about that later on. But
Is
not
this
a
like
bit of
a
an
South
improvement.
Carolinian thing or
Perhaps,
I,
yeah.
I don't know. I only spend a weekend there this year, so I don't understand it.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either. But anyway, that's a good improvement for Parker Olsen getting themselves up into P9. We also have now Elias Vena getting themselves an improvement of a 46.5, putting themselves in P6. So quite good sometimes here. You can also see there how close these drivers are trying to get on those track limits here, just riding those curves here. Now we're going to be going up into the triple O route section here. They're going to be taking off. You can probably see it from this view here. Just oh yeah, those front wheels just going up into the air here. So I can only imagine how terrifying that's going to be in actual race conditions.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely terrifying in race conditions. And I will say, even though that's probably one of my favorite sections in this on this track, it is quite terrifying. It's very terrifying, especially and it is as we follow on board now with Toomby. They had a little bit of a scare here, dealing with a little bit of traffic, heading out onto left hook, trying to get around, but you can't really pass. Oh, and then yeah, I think they just bailed. I think they just bailed on the lap because they were just stuck behind. I believe that was Parker Olsen. As we see Parker Olsen hitting that puddle, and I saw it immediately. They hit
That's
the
not
puddle.
where the track is, buddy. That's not where you're supposed to go. Anyway,
No,
I think the
no.
car they were stuck with earlier was actually going to be Manuel Benavidez' car. They're both red TGR cars, so they can be pretty easily mistaken. But we're going to be watching a quick onboard from
Yeah.
Parker Olsen. Then, yeah, you see
Yeah,
they
it
just
was
hit
the
the
puddle.
puddle on
It
the
was the
inside
puddle.
line there and just lost the car. So, yeah, still a lot of puddles around here, but hopefully it's not going to be causing any havoc for our drivers.
No, we have about 8 minutes left. Track is mostly dry. There's a couple of wet spots, but nothing too horrible, as we've seen. And now we're waiting for I. We are following now with Elias Venya heading down the roller coaster. They are, I believe, on an improvement. Yes, they are. Um, Heading down toward the main straight. Is this going to be enough? No, they're going to bail into a puddle.
I wouldn't really call that a bail more than just they just hit the puddle and spun into the wall there. So not a lap time that
Unfortunate.
Elias Vena would want there, but somebody who seems to be having a bit of a better improvement. That's going to be Inigo Lopez in that Blue Sharky Racing Porsche Cup car there. So yeah, actually, I guess since we're talking about Blue, this is going to be one of the last seasons ever for Blue Sharky Racing.
This is
sadly,
no, it's not going to be one of. It's going to be the.
Yeah,
this
the
will,
last one.
I
Yeah,
will
because they
confirm it.
decided to shutter the team. Yeah, but good to go out with a bang, I say. As they go sideways over that left hook, they're almost collecting themselves with Panu Seaton over there. So good there, but that's not the ideal way to get a lap time.
Yeah, not the best way to do it. But they were also on an outlap. They had just came out of pit lane, and to come up on it, to follow up on that previous comment. Yeah, it's super sad, but I am glad that we're ending on a metaphorical highlight. We will have two drivers for this, so super excited. And now, as we follow along now with Fataku, I pray to God that I said that right.
I believe that is Futako, yeah. Also, I think we're having some technical issues with no audio at all here, so hopefully we're going to be getting that restored here real quick. But apologies for that. We're going to be trying our best to go that. But we're going to keep our eyes on Futaku at the moment here, currently on a pretty good-looking fast lap around there. They seem to be on a slight improvement here, now going through that tricky section, going around into the south bend. They're trying to just carry as much speed as possible, now going deep into the brakes, going into Oak Tree. The key here is to just try to go as late of an apex as possible so you can unleash all that power for this very, very long straight. You can also see Bossy Tickers there in the background having a bit of an off-track moment there. So easy to get some off-tracks on this track as well here with how much grass is around there. It's also quite an old-school track with there's no runoff besides grass there. So if you go off track, you're going to be starting off. So our drivers are going to have to be especially careful by the time the race comes around.
Agreed. This track was actually, this track is over 60 years old. At one point, it was abandoned. Where Oak Tree is now, there used to be, no surprise to anyone, a giant oak tree, which was unfortunately cut down. I've actually seen a couple of the old photos. It's quite a pretty track, and now it's the way it is now. It's astounding how different it was from its original old days back when it was first founded. It's always nice to see these types of tracks, especially in iRacing. It's been, I guess you could say, it's been kind of especially for iRacing to take these older tracks or tracks that are no longer around, and being able to be saved in a place like iRacing is always very nice to see.
Well, if they're American tracks, because I don't think there's going to be many other European or non-European tracks already. I know there's like one of those Australian tracks. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, since American devs, American company, they're mostly going to be just focusing on those American racing sims here. Now we're going to be watching Rafael Rodriguez here from Luxembourg, surprisingly enough, going around into left hook now, heading towards that very tricky snake section around there. Trying to at least right on the edge of the track here. So good line that riding those curves there right up to the limit here. So yeah, this is the kind of line you need to have there, because you're going to be carrying as much speed as possible. You're going to be on the edge of your grip going around that turn 5A towards the snake section here. So yeah, that's the only way to get good lap times. You can also see, and again bouncing over to the 7, 8, 9 turn complex. You're now heading over to the south bend. So definitely something you need to be maximizing. And again, as I was saying, with how old school the track is here, if you just go a little bit off there, you're going to be just going all the grassy, and that's going to be not really good. Not good times.
No, not good times. But having a good time is Sarah van Vlietlen, who is now taking P3. I've just noticed. This should make things very interesting. We can see that Philip Beckerwold is still holding on to P2, only a tenth off of Jordan Johnson with a 144.831. This should definitely be a lot more. We should definitely start seeing drivers start to push now. There's only about 4 minutes left. So hopefully we're going to start to really see them start to crack down on these times and see if they can get the best time out there. And hopefully this will mean that they only have about 1 or 2 more shots, because a lap around here, as we've seen, is about 144. So you'd only be able to get at this point an out lap and then 1 more big push up. You can see cars coming out right now for that reason. This is going to be their very last shot to get a time in.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of time left on the qualifying end. Before we get over to the actual race, let's have a quick reminder on what our actual race format is, because I don't think we ever mentioned it. So we have our qualifying here, open qualifying, 20 minutes, where everybody just going to be driving around. There are no class splits around here. And then the race format, that's going to be the interesting one, because we're not going to have 1 race. We're going to have 2 races back to back. There's going to be a 30-minute sprint race with the results of the qualifying, and once that sprint race has concluded, there's going to be another feature race where the top 10 of the grid from the end of the sprint race is going to be reversed. So basically, whatever finishing order we have at the end of the sprint race, the top 10 of that result is going to be reversed for the feature race. So that's going to be quite interesting for sure, because then I'm fairly confident the likes of Jordan Johnson, Philip Beckerwold, Sarah van Vlietlen are going to be there on the point to end of the grid, and probably going to be finishing at the front of the gate here, barring any major incidents. So they're just going to have to hustle their way through the grid, going off into the next feature race. As we see, I think that was Inigo Lopez going very wide on the off-track
very wide
there in the south bend. So yeah. The double sprint race format is going to be giving 2 opportunities for everybody to score points, because we also have our standard Simufur point scoring system. So there's going to be quite a lot of points on board here.
Yeah, a lot of points, and I don't believe we're going to have any drop rounds because of this format. So, there will be, I've been corrected, it is in fact 1 drop round. So that'll make things a bit interesting, because so hopefully this will really spice up the championship. As we follow along now with Toombi, they are going to be out on their last out lap. As you can see, it's 18:51 minutes used at the moment. So this will be the last shot for these drivers to get their best times in. We can see now Toombi is on a charge. Hopefully they will be able to improve on their time, but they do have a little bit of traffic ahead. They have Indigo right up ahead, so hopefully they will not hold them up too much.
Yes, indeed. Now we have about 50 seconds left on the lap here. So everybody that has going to be crossing the finish, so that's going to be their last chance into the. Now saw Christian Klippert there getting themselves a P11 time with a 46.2, followed by Newbie and a 46 flat. And now it's going to be, there's going to be also Philip Beckerwold on their outlap. I don't think they're going to be able to finish the lap time here. So we're going to be keeping our attention on Toombi here. Tombstone there, just going down through the snake section now towards the Tribu Eau Rouge. They're chasing down. I think that's going to be Nico Lopez there in the background trying to chase down. Hopefully there's not going to be too much traffic. But yeah, going now far down into that, carrying as much speed as possible, going down into the south bend there, trying to go not quite over to the edge of the track as you might want to there, but seems to be still keeping it nice and tidy, unless yeah, never mind. We actually, as soon as we hit 20 minutes there, that seems to be the end of the qualifying year. So unfortunately, that's not going to be a chance for Toombi to get any more improvement. So that's going to be indeed Jordan Johnson with a very dominant pole position with their 146.1, I believe. I think they got that 144 actually. That was the end of the time there. So good result from them. And now a quick walkthrough of the rest of our grid here. We have Philip Beckerwold there in P2, starting alongside in P3. That's going to be Sarah van Vlietlen in the Shork Racing Porsche. In P4, we have Elias Veina in that first TGR Porsche there, followed by Myrsky Lohikäärle in P5. Then we have another Finnish person, P6. That's going to be Panu Pasketi Siitonen in P6. And behind that is going to be Rafael Rodriguez there in P7, joined up by Luis Gordon, our first racing team Echo car, starting up in P8. Behind that, that's going to be Electroshock, another TGR car there in P9, starting alongside Newbie of the Legacy 2 Fast Station team here in P10. In P11, we have yet another GGR racing car. That's going to be Christian Klippert there in that nice green Porsche that we see in the background. That's going to be in then P12. That's going to be their fellow German. That's going to be Bossi Digris in P12. Behind that, that's going to be Futaku in P13, joined up alongside by Kiando, our first Cabal Sim Sport driver, in P14. In P15, we have our Turbo John Blue Shark racing team for number 423, Porsche Cup. That's going to be Nico Lopez, joined up alongside by Tumbi in P16. In P17, we have another Chican racing car. That's going to be Parker Olsen. The triple Olsen, double Olsen car here, joined up alongside by Juan, another Cabal Sim Sports car in P18. In P19, we have Nicolas Son, another Cabal Sim Sports car. We're going to have to go through this very quickly because we don't have a lot of time through our grid walk here. So it's going to be now in P20. It's going to be Lewis Adelaide. P20, that's going to be Matti Alakopsa, Ladadu, also known as. Then in P22, we have Kitty Timberfox, joined up alongside by Charter in P23. P24, that's going to be Sarah Thomas. And P25, it's going to be the last of our cars. It's going to be Zruzi Ban, a new Digan Racing driver here, starting in P25. So 25 cars, 25 minutes, or not 25 minutes, 30 minutes. So, yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting ride, because now it's going to be actually green flag conditions here, because it's going to be red. Right. 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go, 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 go. That's going to be a big launch from Jordan Johnson, joined up alongside by Philip Beckford, going down into that big track. He's going into turn one. That seems to be also Sarah Van Fiefelen right behind them as well, trying to sneak up with a look up into the inside. They're going down into the horseshoe. It's going to be Sarah Van Fiefelen pushing their way through into P2, pushing out Philip Beckford wide. That's going to be also Elias Vane in the background. It seems like everybody's making it through nice and tidy here, but there's going to be so many Porsche in the background. All of those flat Boxer 6 engines just screaming off so loud. They're just going down back to back, going out into the left hook to the snake there. It seems like Jordan Johnson is able to get a nice launch there, but it seems like Sarah People was the one to get through. Now it's going to be now Elias Vena right behind Philip Bekover, trying to chase them down into the snake. Now to the 7, 8, 9 contact. It's going to be Jordan Johnson. I think they got him off track. Yeah, they got a slowdown penalty. That's going to be them losing the lead they had just gained this. So it's going to be Sarah Field, but they're in the lead. Now chased down by Philip Bekover. Now going down into the south bend, into Oak Tree. It's going to be them all just barely anything separating between these three competitors here. It's going to be again almost touching bumpers. Now going down into Oak Tree. It's going to be careful. But
they are touching bumpers.
To avoid any contact. Yeah, they're touching bumpers, but they're still somehow making it through there. I think that was a bit of a kiss from Elias Vena trying to touch on Philip Bekover's bumper here. So very, very exciting start here, but seems like everybody's made it through in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Made it through in one piece. Other than Jordan Johnson having that slowdown early on, that's going to cost them a lot of time. They're now in P4, and now we're going to make out all that time as we see Philip Beckable going down the main street looking for the inside, and they're able to make the pass on Sarah Van Viepelen. As Fair almost gets rear-ended by Venya, heading down toward roller coaster. Jordan desperately tried to take advantage of it, but was not able to get the job done. You can see that Jordan Johnson is trying his best to try to make a move. You can see now they've finally able to get it done on the last corner, but they still got 2 cars ahead of him, and I don't think Venya's going to let him go that easily. Heading down toward the turn 1, going into the main street, but as we see a little bit of trouble for Katie heading down the roller coaster. It looks like, they ate a little bit of bumper or the curb, and unfortunately lost it.
Yeah, they just went on the grass there for a little bit, lost quite a lot of time there. I think there was also one of the racing team Echo cars. I think that may have been Louis Gordon there, also going off track there. So again, those old school track limits there is got to be the grass. So if you go on the grass, you're going to be just sliding off and losing tons of time there. But now going back to our main fight, there's going to be Jordan Johnson now chasing down Sarah Van Viepelen there, right up into the rear bumper here, going up into the triple roof section here. There's still not going to be a lot of space there to make a move there. So we're going to be watching very closely where Jordan Johnson's going to be making the move there. You can see the cars are just bouncing on those curbs there. Jordan Johnson is leaving nothing on the table. We also see Philip Beckable there in the front there, going on the gravel there as much as they're trying to extend those track limits as much as they can. But it looks like it's going to be Jordan Johnson hanging on there, getting a very, very good launch there. Just going to be touching that bumper on Sarah Van Viepelen's Porsche there. So it's got to try to get a sneak up on the outside there, but it looks like Sarah Van Viepelen is keeping themselves hard. We can't quite see from this camera out there. That's going to be Jordan Johnson having a peek. That's going to be going on the outside there, going side by side into roller coaster. There's going to be a very tough battle between these two, but it looks like Sarah Van Viepelen opted to back out of there in the end. So it's not going to be another precision gate for Jordan Johnson, now trying to chase down Philip Beckable for the lead of the race.
Yeah, following along with the mid-pack now. We can see that Toombi has gotten ahead of Indigo Lopez, now heading down toward roller coaster, and it looks as if they've still got a little bit of ways to go. As you can see, Indigo goes a little bit wide going out of the last corner, and it's going to open the door, unfortunately, for Guiando, who will get ahead of him heading down the main straight as we head down into turn 1. And it looks like Tui's going to try to make another move going on the outside, but no going there. And now they've lost a little bit of time trying to make that move. As you can see, Indigo's now trying to make a move on Guiando, but no real space to do it. As now we have a new feature. We can now see how many off tracks we have, and we can see our leaders already have a 2x, which means I believe our max counter is 17 before you get a penalty. But I mean, every off track that you get is gonna be a problem. And now, following on still with Tui's desperately trying to make a move here, but I don't think there's gonna be any place to do it. They're just a little bit too far back to do anything. As we follow along now with Wanev, who's right behind Parker Olsen, who goes a little bit wide, going out of Oak Tree. As we see trouble in the background, I think that was either Luis Adelaide or Futaku went out of Oak Tree, and unfortunately, I think either touched grass or something, because they got very squirrely going out of Oak Tree, but were able to save it. So good job on them.
Yeah, they seem to be keeping themselves in one piece, thankfully, here, but we're going to be keeping our attention on one of them. They're trying to chase down Parker Olsen's Porsche 911 Cup car there with a big splash of color. Now we're going to be going to think to see what exactly happened. It's going to be the overtake with Jordan Johnson, I think that's going to be over the pick up. Again, going down that very, very long straight here. This is going to be now Jordan Johnson going up alongside Philip Pick up here, just trying to dive down into the roller coaster section here, just squeezing wide here. I think Philip Pick will just decide to say, no, thank you, I'm not going to be fighting a 9-key iRacing driver, and just opted to stay behind them. But
yeah, that was probably the smartest move.
Between Parker Olsen and one of them going down now into the NASCAR bend there, with one of them trying to just chase them down, but there's not going to be a lot of a space there to make a move happen there. So one of them is just binding their trying to get as close as possible, trying to get themselves all the way over into the rear bumper of Parker Olsen's car there. And now we're going to be back into the front of the car. Actually, it's going to be a gaggle of 5 cars there.
What happened?
Side by side through the snake up into the triple O roof section. These cars are just going wide. That's going to be now, I think that was going to be Rafael Rodriguez's car. They're going airborne there off the track there, so that's going to be probably an off track and a slowdown penalty for them. But it looks like something else has happened to Jordan Johnson, because Philip Pickle was again at the front there, managing to get themselves spun around and get themselves back into the lead of the race here. That's going to be a 4-car fight there. Now going down to this insanely long straight. It seems like Elias Vena there in the background managed to get the best launch of the bunch here, just trying to now chase down Sarvan people. I think they're maybe having a peak there, going down into the roller coaster section, but doesn't look like no, there's not going to be enough space. But we do see in the back of that's going to be Rafael Rodriguez there, going up alongside Mursk Lohikar, going down to that corner, but we can't sadly see what's going to be happening there, but it looks to be a very awesome overtake happening. But yeah, it's going to be and Rafael Rodriguez going side by side. That's going to be a puddle on the inside. That's going to be causing a lot of loss of traction there. So it's going to be Rafael Rodriguez managing to push themselves way through. That's going to be now Mursk Lohikar and Balusita now back to back there, going down into the hawk pit. Now going to be unleashing that power. Both of them going wide.
There's trouble.
There's going to be a car wide. It's going to be Mursk off into the gravel there. I think that was also Vossi Tinkers. They're also having a bit of an incident there, so unfortunate contact there. That's a very, very tight place to be making overtakes, and sadly, you saw exactly what happened. So we're going to be now going back on the Auburn to see what exactly had happened here. It's going to be Mursk trying to get... Yeah, no, they just lost it. A bit too much power onto the exit of Hawkpin here, just causing them to spin around and lose all that traction. So poor mistake from Mursk, but thankfully their car seems to still be in one piece.
Yeah, thankfully they weren't hit by anyone. I think Vossi also went wide, I think, to try to avoid it. And it cost him a lot of time, but you can see the gaggle of cars in the top 4. It is very tight going through the edges.
Side by side, the snake. Oh my god!
There is 4 cars fighting in the S's in a single train. And look, you're seeing advantage. It's about to be 5 cars heading down toward the... I forget, this is turn 6 and 7, heading toward the Oak Tree section, looking for a move. I think George's going to try to make a move on the inside. No. Heading into Oak Tree. Sarah Von Vieplin right on the bumper of Jordan Johnson, but they're just doing their best to defend. They've got 2 cars right on the bumper. We said Porsche Cup was going to be interesting, and they do not disappoint. Here we go, heading down toward roller coaster. Jordan Johnson's not probably going to make a move here, sitting right on the bumper. As I say that, he's going to move on the inside. Here we go. Is it going to be enough? He's getting squeezed going into the corner, but I think is able to say they're going to have a quarter advantage going into the next one. Down the roller coaster we go. Philip Beckervold not giving up this space at all, and it's costing Jordan Johnson so much time to the point that Sarah Von Vliet also is going to try to make a move here, heading down to the last corner, looking on the inside. It might be enough. It's a drag race down to the line. We're not even 10 minutes in, and the fighting has not stopped at all. Sarah's going to have an advantage looking on the inside. Here we go with the turn one. Is it going to be a twofer? They tried to go for a twofer, but it did not work out. But they're right next to Jordan Johnson trying to make a move, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
You can still see there's some puddles there on the outside of the Hawkpin section there. So Jordan Johnson was trying to hang it around the outside there, but he was hitting all of those puddles there, slowing themselves down. So Philip Becker was able to keep their lead of the race there for so far. And in fact, they stuck themselves so much fighting there that they're just going to be sliding back down towards Sarah Von Vliet, Elias Vela, and Rafael Rodriguez. Even Baru Cedar has now joined this spot there. They're also only a couple of tenths from this huge gaggle of cars at the front here, just trying their best to get around here. I'm going to be watching an Auburn from Sarah Von Vliet here. You can see just how much the car is bouncing, going now through the 7, 8, 9 section, and now through the south bend towards Oak Tree. It's going to be Jordan Johnson trying to have a little peek on out the outside, trying to set themselves up for a very good launch there. Oh, Sarah Von Vliet almost touching Jordan Johnson on the rear bumper there, almost kissing that golden Porsche right there, but it seems like they didn't get their exit as good as they would have had there. But someone who has had really good exit, that's going to be Jordan Johnson again now trying to have another way. That's going to be now on the inside going into the roller coaster, but inside's going to be turning to the outside there after a couple more turns here. Well, let's see if Jordan Johnson is going to be able to see it. But no, we're going to be now watching a replay. There's going to be Katie Timberfox in the background there, but we're not going to be seen. There's going to be a fight for P1 there. We're going to be totally missing this with Katie Timberfox in the background there, but they seem to be still be in one piece stack for but we're going to be
Jordan on the move on the outside of the roller coaster.
Jordan Johnson. Again, Jordan Johnson on the outside, hitting those puddles on the outside.
Oh, there's trouble!
The Elias Veda off there in the background, sliding sideways through the hawk pit, but they seem to be still in one piece, so thankfully not much more damage here. But Jordan Johnson again on the outside now going into the horseshoe in there. Let's see if they can get themselves a better launch now going around the outside. But again, Philip Beckwood has the advantageous inside line there, so they can just force Jordan Johnson wide there. Now it's going to be Sarah Von Vliet also joining this three-way fight for the race here again. They're going left, right, weaving left and right, just trying to find any kind of purchase there. But no, Philip Beckwood is not giving up. They're just planting themselves right in the middle of the track and saying, no, you shall not pass. And he is definitely putting his elbows out there.
Elbows out everywhere. The top three, Sarah Von Vliet almost had a move going into NASCAR bend, but was not able to complete it. As you can see, George Johnson go outside into the puddle. That is a risky move, but it didn't work out. As you can see, he gets air going into the curb, heading down into the Oak Tree section, into the fast right, heading down. You see Sarah Vliet goes wide, but it's not gonna. But they are able to save it. Now heading down into Oak Tree. Jordan's going to try to make a move on the inside, but not enough. As you can see, Philip Beckenwald doing everything they can to hold on to this lead. 2 cars right behind them. As you can see, now the 2 drivers that are behind that were driving, look at this. Wuschel is literally pushing Jordan Johnson down the straight. They almost look like they're going to try to make a pass in the grass. That's not wise. Here we go, down the roller coaster once again. You can see Jordan Johnson trying desperately to make that move because Wuschel is right there and is putting so much pressure on Jordan that he can't really make any big risks. Heading down the main street for yet another lap, heading down to the turn 1 is Jordan Johnson. I think Jordan's actually kind of backing off a little bit to try to maybe get some breather space. Heading down to the turn 1, is he going to try again? It doesn't look like it. And now heading toward NASCAR bend.
I think
it's
their best
crazy.
is going to be if they can just get close enough at the exit of Oak Tree to just try to use that long straight before roller coaster to get off alongside them. But it seems like every single time Jordan Johnson tries to get close enough into Oak Tree to get a good launch there, Philip Beckwood gets an even better launch, so they can just barely cling themselves on and keep themselves on the lead of the race here. We also see in the back, I think Elias Venas trying to hustle their way through the field here, trying to get themselves back into this top 3 fight here. There's going to be again Jordan Johnson chasing down that rainbow striped Philip Beckwood Couple of Sports car. They're now going almost bumper to bumper through turn 7, 8, 9, through to South Bend, just carrying as much speed as possible. I think it was a bit of a slide there from Philip Beckerbold going into the exit of that turn there. That's going to be now down into turn 11, through to Oak Tree. It's going to be again, Jordan Johnson starting to get as tight of an exit as possible, to get as close as possible to Philip Beckerbold. That's going to be less than 3 tenths separating these two competitors here, with Sarah Van Vliet also there in the background trying to capitalize on this battling happening ahead of them. So it's going to be again another drag race down into roller coaster, but it does not look like there's going to be enough time for Jordan Johnson. There's going to be not enough distance for Jordan Johnson to try and make a challenge, though, going into roller coaster. They seem to be thinking a bit of it as well, just trying to stay right behind and hoping to maybe find another opportunity going through Hawkman into that main straight to maybe make a pass around there, because they are not making any moves there at the moment here. Again, going through that very bouncy up and down elevation section there. Now into Hawkman. It's going to be Jordan Johnson again unleashing the power. It's going to be even closer now this time, going out to the main straight. This could be the chance that Jordan Johnson needs to get themselves around there. So it's going to be distance closing quickly. Now it's going to be Jordan Johnson on the outside, but it's going to be Philip Beckerbold carrying up the inside line there. So it's getting, again, Philip Beckerbold is just putting their car in the right exact spot there, where Jordan Johnson just cannot get closer to make a move made here, which is going to be slowing themselves down even more. Now it's going to be Sarah Van Vliet again. Jordan is fighting. No, it's going to be Jordan Johnson now driving up in the inside, going into the NASCAR bend there. It's going to be going side by side there. I think this could be the one move they need here, but it's going to be again an inside there. But the inside's going to be now turning to the outside. It's going to be Philip Beckerbold trying to hold on to that inside line there now, going through into the snake there. It's going to be going side by side through the snake there, somehow avoiding any contact, but they're still side by side. Now it's going to be Sarah Van Vliet also on his fight there, just with the prime view of this entire fight happening right in front of them. There's going to be a huge pile of popcorn happening right there. It's going to be again side by side.
Touch! They touch!
Off the track, and that's going to be a slowdown for them. There's going to be finally Jordan Johnson half through the lap, side by side through the snake and the SS, and finally to the lead, with now Sarah Van Vliet finally getting himself something to P2 as well here. There's not going to be any chance for anybody to breathe, less for me. Oh.
No, you can't breathe. I can't breathe, because guess what? Fucking Biscotti. I apologize for my language.
It's a slowdown.
Oh,
it's a slowdown for Jordan Johnson again. It's going to
Oh
be
my
Sarah Van
God.
now getting the lead of the race here. Now going to be Pablo Biscotti Caesar, now also challenging for Jordan Johnson, going side by side into the roller coaster section there. That's going to be, I think there was a bit of a
this
crash
is
moment
the
there.
wise move, though.
Pablo has to back out of there in the end.
Yeah.
So Jordan Johnson just slamming the door on Biscotti and somehow managing to hold on to P3 here. That's going to be also Vossi Tigris now having joined this top 5 fight here. So there's no love lost between any of these cars, and no inch given, no quarter left for anybody.
5 drivers fighting for the lead as we head down toward the main section into turn 1. You can see Biscotti has backed off a little bit, but I think backed off a little bit too much. You can see Jordan Johnson once again trying to make a move into turn 1. No going there. Philip Beckerbold trying to retake that lead from Wuschel, and it is a fight this is a fight. This is a fight, and we were expecting this from Porsche Cup, but I don't think I was expecting this much fighting. Heading down into the snake corners, heading no problem so far. But you can see Wuschel's starting to gain a little bit of distance from the two drivers of Jordan Johnson and Phil Beckerbold, but they're definitely going to be fighting. Look at how close Jordan Johnson is. They are right on the bumper as you see them getting a little airborne, heading down toward the Mini Rouge section, heading into Oak Tree. The Oak Tree section, no going there. You can see Jordan kind of trying to get as close as he can to maybe make a run toward the back straight. And oh man, as you can see, he had a little bit. Philip Beckerbold had a little bit of a slide going on Oak Tree. This could be the moment Jordan Johnson needed, heading down the back straight. He's trying to find a spot, but Philip is doing a very good job at keeping himself in a decent spot. And here we go, heading to
Jordan Johnson is doing there. They're bump drafting Philip Beckerbold to try and catch up to Sarah Van Vliet again there, to try and retake that lead again there. So, yeah, well, I think all that Sarah Van Vliet would be hoping for is that Jordan Johnson and Philip Beckerbold will be busy fighting each other, so Sarah Van Vliet could just get away from the field here, but that does not seem to be happening. I think they finally decided to bury the hatchet for at least a couple laps there, so they can go back into catching the front of the field and try to get around that way. And yeah, only a couple of tenths separating these cars here. Now, Paduciden seems to be falling back a little bit from this pack here, with also Vossi Tigris in the background, also losing a bit more time. Not going to be falling into the hands of Newbie, I think there is in the background. That's going to be back into Jordan Johnson. They're trying to have another peek around the outside of NASCAR bend there, but there's not going to be enough space for them to make a move to stick there. But they're going to be trying to get as close as possible, going through a bit wide from several people. They're losing a bit of time on the exit now, going towards the Snake SS there. That's going to be, yeah, not going to be enough for anybody to make a move to stick here. And now it's going to be only a couple of tenths, less than 2 tenths separating these two, going down now into turn 7, 8, 9, towards South Bend there. There's going to be not barely any space there. You can see the cars just bouncing aggressively so much between these turns here, but it looks like Jordan Johnson has to get himself a bit of a better launch going down to South Bend, to Oak Tree. Now it's all going to be down to getting a perfect launch going through the bend. It seems like Jordan Johnson got the best one there with the Saravan people getting a bit too slow. It's going to be a very poor exit from Saravan people, actually. They're going to be under death not only from Philip Beckerville, but also from Jordan Johnson. Both of they're going to have to defend from both of these cars here going down into the roller coaster. There's going to be an ache in these long straight here. That's going to be Philip Beckerville finally making a move up on the outside with also Jordan Johnson following right through. Don't make it 3 wide. No, this is not very bad idea. Don't do it. It's going to be no. Jordan Johnson's going to be hanging themselves around the outside, trying to hope to stay alongside to then turn on the inside. Now going towards roller coaster, now towards Hogpenny. It seems like Jordan Johnson finally managed to push their way through into P2. Now it's going to be down to chasing Philip Beckerville yet again. It's been 20 minutes with 10 minutes of the race to go here, and there's still Philip Beckerville somehow holding on to the lead here. Unbelievable.
Absolutely holding on to the smooth. As you can see, Sarah Von Viebelen trying to make a move on the outside, or at least trying to make Jordan think that they were going to make a move on the outside. Cut right back in. Maybe she's going to try again later down the line. She is right on the bumper of Jordan as we see. Oh man, everything is going crazy as we
yeah, we
I
had
think
a
we're having
slight technical difficulty. Apologies there. We're back to racing now.
And
but yeah, again, several people and Gao trying to chase down Jordan Johnson, but they seem to be losing a little bit of ground. They're trying to chase down, but look who's making even more ground. That's going to be Philip Beckerville there. With only 10 minutes left of the race to go here, there's not going to be much more chance. You can see how much they take off in that bend there. They've been doing this for 20 minutes, and they need to do this for another 10 minutes, then another 30 minutes in the feature race. So this is an absolutely bonkers race, and it's only the first round.
This is only round 1, and the chaos has not stopped in the top 10. We have not been able to look at the midfield at all because of how tense the fighting is for the lead. Now going back down a little bit further, as you can see, things have kind of settled. As we see following down toward the main street, we see this battle between Toomby and Newbie, heading down toward roller coaster. It looks like, and look who's also trying to get involved. Rafael Rodriguez tried to maybe break a little bit late to try to get a little bit of a line, and it was not anything doing as we head on down toward the last quarter. I'm sorry, I'm almost out of breath. It is an intense fight.
I think we all are. I also think something may have happened to Murski Lohikauer because they're now down in P50. I don't think they were that far down when they had their first incident, so perhaps another incident. So quite unlucky from them. I think we also had a retirement from Louise Gordon at some point because they are no longer driving on the track here. Neither is Matti Alakopsa either. So unfortunately, some retirements. But now we got to be keeping an eye on Electroshock. They're actually trying to defend on the outside with got to be now Luis Adeline now going around the outside of the Tigan Racing Porsche car, now going through into left hook now towards the snake here, changing down. I think there's going to be Parker Olson there in front of them, so it's going to be quite some more fighting, not only at the top of the field, but also in the mid-pack here. I'm going to be watching, again, Luis Adeline try to chase themselves down into Parker also, but it looks like there's not going to be enough space for them to make a move yet, but they're going to be just biding their time, trying to get as close as possible because the overtaking zone is going to be going into that long straight after Oak Tree here. So at the moment, they're just going to be trying to get as close as possible. Again, the car's taking off through that big jump there. It's like it's an actual roller coaster. We're not even in the roller coaster part of the track there.
No, we're not. Every time I see that, I just get terrified because that is two wheels in the air as we follow back now with the lid as we see Jordan Johnson trying to make a run on a roller coaster, heading down toward roller coaster. They were able to get the job done, finally able to get ahead of Philip Beckerville. I think that might do it unless Jordan gets yet another slowdown. And once again spices this race up. It has been crazy in the lead. I think Jordan just had a better launch out of Oak Tree. They've been very strong leaving Oaktree, but they've just been not able to get an opportunity up until now to get back in that lead. But hats off to Philip Beckerville. They've been holding off for so long, and they have still 7 minutes to try to make a move. As you can see, Jordan goes a little bit of wide going out of turn 1, heading into NASCAR Bend. So far, there's no move there, but you can see Philip is right there with him. He is not losing any. He's not losing any ground, and I think Jordan went a little bit wide going out of into left hook, and so far I think they also suffered the same problem. Philip is now a little bit behind. I think about 4/10 behind, so I can see the gap finally settling in the lead pack for the time being, and it has been crazy. You see Jordan getting a little bit of air going out of the snake bends, and now heading into the oak tree section, heading down. Phil, I think, went a little bit wide, but not a lot of time lost. In fact, it's going to give them a little bit of a gap as we see Jordan get very loose going out of oak tree. That's going to be a big moment for Philip. Here we go, heading down to the main straight, looking for a move, but you see Jordan being very defensive. They know very well that they don't have the speed advantage like they did the last time. Jordan sitting right on the bumper. Is Philip going to try to make a last-minute lunge? No, I think they're going to try to. I think they were trying to telegraph what Jordan was going to do, but were not able to fully take advantage, so they just sat on the bumper. It was so close, but I think Jordan just barely able to save it.
Jordan is definitely not making it easy for himself with how many off tracks, how many times he's slid around, how many times he's got slowdowns, losing the lead that way. So definitely not making it easy for himself at all. But it looks like now that there's a bit of clean air ahead of them, Jordan Johnson is able to extend that gap a little bit. But again, it's only a little bit of loss of traction into the exit of the corner, and Philip Beckerwood is right there ready to pounce on that. But it looks like on that long straight there, Philip Beckerwood opted to just do a little bit of bump drafting instead here. But now it looks like there's also a bit of a big fight happening, or is a mid-pack here between Newbie, Rafael Rodriguez, and Tubi in the background there. You can see them just going back to back there. There's going to be a gaggle of 4 cars. There's going to be Vossi, Newbie, Rafael, Tubi there, almost bumper to bumper, now going through left hook towards the Snake SS right there. There's going to be Rafael Rodriguez with the best chance, I think, of these 4 cars to have a move to make there. They're almost touching the Newbie's car right in front of them. It's going to be, actually, they're going to be making a move on the outside. They're going to be going side by side. They're thinking about it, but no, they decide to instead back out and not make a move into the SS there. Wise thinking from them, because that's not going to be a place, that's going to be a very risky place to make some overtakes happen there. So they're going to be back in the hopefully trying to make a better ascent going down into turn 11, 212, to Oak Tree, and trying to get themselves the best launch possible with the Vossi Tigers leading this pack of cars there. It looks like there's going to be a very nice and tidy exit from all of them. So now it's going to be down to a drag race, but with Vossi leading this train along there, I don't think there's going to be much happening at this point. There's going to be just too much of a distance between all these cars there. So I feel like with only 4 minutes of the race left to go here, it's going to be a bit calmer here. But these 3 cars, Sarah, Philip, and Jordan, they're still separated by less than half a second between all of them. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a race down to the wire here.
It absolutely will be a race down to the wire as Jordan once again goes a little bit wide going out of the last corner. It's going to open the door for Philip Beckerville, but you can see Jordan sees that coming. It's going to make Jordan work for every inch, and tried to squeeze him right into the grass, and almost it worked, but that was definitely, but it might not work enough. Here we go into turn 1. Philip Beckerville trying to make a move on the inside, on the outside. Here we go on the inside. You can see Wishel trying to maybe take advantage of it, but no going there. Oh man, it was so close. You can see it's not even 3/10 now. It is
we also see something. I think something has happened with Mursku and Louis. Suddenly, I see meatballs happening overhead, so I think there may have been an incident in the background there. Hopefully, we can see a replay of that happening later. But we're going to be keeping our attention onto the actual replay that's going to be happening. That's going to be now on board with Mursku going down into the Hawkman here. I think they may have just bounced a bit too much there. No, that's going to be Louis Adelaide. Oh, the there. It's going to be right into the path of Mursku right there. So it looks like Louis just lost themselves going into Hawkpen and just. Yeah, just couldn't control the car anymore. This unfortunate incident for both Mursku and Luis. They're going to be both out of the race there now with big meatballs, so quite bad luck. But thankfully, there's still going to be one more race left for them to hopefully pick up some points here. Now back to this fight here between Jordan Johnson, Philip Beckerwood, and Sarah Van Peeble here. Again, Philip Beckerwood is not quite close enough to make a send happen into the roller coaster section there, but they're going to be keeping themselves as close as possible, trying to just keep the pressure on Jordan Johnson. They're hoping that they're going to be cracking, because it looks like, despite Jordan Johnson having the pace advantage to all these cars, they seem to be just making those tiny mistakes every so often here. A little bit too wide on the grass here, a bit of a loss of traction, a slowdown there. So that's going to be, I think, what Philip Belka was banking on here, just trying to keep the pressure on Jordan Johnson so they can just slide their way through that way.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, we are at the 28-minute mark. I believe it will be either this lap or the next lap will be the last lap of this race. It's been chaos so far, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Here we go into turn 1. Philip, once again, getting a little bit of advantage going into NASCAR Bend. You can see Philip's trying desperately to try to make a move. They've only got a little bit of time left. I don't see this. I don't see a move coming unless Jordan either gets yet another slowdown or something happens. Here we go, heading into the S's. And you can see Jordan just gets such a much better launch going out of the S's. And there's still, I didn't even notice it, there's still some puddles just dotted around the track, but not that many. As you can see, Phil has a much better going into the Arouge section, a much better run. Heading down toward Oak Tree. So far, so good. It looks like Phil's going to try to break late, maybe gain a little bit of distance, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Jordan goes very wide, though. That might be enough. Here we go, down toward the roller coaster section. Jordan Johnson trying desperately to hold on, but I don't think Phil's going to have the momentum or the space to do it unless they break super late. It's going to come down to the wire. If Jordan does not make it before... I think if Jordan makes it at this point, it will be. I think this race will be over. And heading down toward, I believe this will be the final lap as we hit the 30-minute mark. And heading down toward Oak Tree. Here we go, down toward the main straight. It looks like Jordan Johnson's going to have it, unless, we're checking, and yes, it will be it. It will be Jordan Johnson P1. Followed by Philip Beckevold and Sarah Von Vieplin in P3. Oh, I can breathe finally.
For a little while, because there's still another race to go after this. But yeah, Bono Seaton in P4, Rafael Rodriguez in P5. It's going to be now Vossi, Tumbi, Nubi, Guiando, Inigo Lopez now in the top 10 here. So that's going to be the top 10. That's going to be reversed going into the next race here. So it's going to be Inigo Lopez in P10, which means Inigo Lopez of Blue Shark E-Racing is going to be starting from the front of the field going into our feature race. So it's going to be a very interesting race for them. Yeah, unfortunately, we had Luis Adelaine retired at the end of the race with that incident. And also Mirski Lohikar and Ruzi Ban both went just a lap down through some further incidents. And Elias Vina also very far down. They were in the front of the field there at some point. I think just those incidents later on in the race just caused them to lose all that ground, all that gain there. So hopefully they have a better chance in the in our next race here. Yeah, we still seem to have Mirski Lohikar there still driving on the track here, so we're going to have to wait a little while for our session to end there, but it's just going to be now Mirski just going down the main street. So that's going to be now Mirski being the final car to cross the finish line.
I think it's
also
Zerushi.
Also on the track there, that's going to be still counted as a valid driver there, so they would also have to cross the finish line for our session to end. But at least this is going to be giving us more time to just get some water, catch our breath, and finally get ready for the next 30
Finally breathe. I have gone through most of my soda already because of the amount of times I've needed to drink, so that way my throat doesn't turn into a desert. And I have a feeling I'm going to go through the rest of it in the second half. As you see, Zerusi finally crossed the line. I believe this will be it. Yep, there we go. Yep, the results should be posted, and there we go.
And now it's going to be tied for race 2. So unfortunately, we're not going to be getting any official race results for race 1, but you can check that out afterwards in the SimGrid page and on our Discord server. So we're going to be just waiting a couple more minutes more for the rest of the cars to get themselves up and get ready for the next race. So it's going to be reversed top 10 based on the finishing results of our first race here. So Yeah, it's gonna be actually before we're gonna be doing that. There's gonna be a very brief couple of minutes window of practice where people can just prepared. But looking at the weather at the moment, it looks to be very dry. So I think all of those puddles have finally dried up. So this time around, there's not gonna be any more puddles that might strike unexpectedly onto Jordan Johnson and slow them down. So it's gonna be down to them just avoiding getting any more slowdowns.
Yeah, but remember, this race they're going to be in 10th. So that means Jordan's not going to have to worry about puddles this time. He's going to have to worry about other drivers, which will make things even more interesting because our top three will now have to not only fight each other like they have been the entire first race, but they will now have to fight the slower cars that are now ahead of him. And oh, I have a feeling these things are about to get very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Now let me have another quick look at the results here for our race one. If I'm gonna have a quick look, see. Yeah, in the end, it was going to be Jordan Joseph, Philip Peckerwood, and Sarvan Fieplen in the top three. So that's going to be then Inigo Lopez starting in the first slot. That's going to be joined by Giando in P2. There's going to be Newbie in P3, Toombi in P4, with Vossi Tigris in P5 there in the middle of the pack here. Then it's going to be Rafael Rodriguez, Peschetti, Banusito, and then Sarvan Fieplen, and then Philip Peckerwood and Jordan Joseph. That's going to be running out our top 10. So yeah, it's going to be quite a lot of chaos with the traffic here. Now, unfortunately, because Myrsky Lohikärrylle and that was also, yeah, Elias Vena, that both of them had those big incidents at the start of the day. So they're unfortunately not going to be starting in the top. They're going to be starting further down the field here. So I think there's going to be very much a recovery race for them.
Absolutely. It's going to be a bit of a recovery race, but I almost feel like they might be lucky in that sense because if you think about it, they will have to fight other slower traffic, but they will not have to fight Jordan and them fighting in the lead. I have a feeling, just a sneaky feeling, that something might happen just with the way this setup might be. It will definitely make things very interesting because of the fact that they will then be having to fight slower cars early on, so it will make things very interesting. So I have a feeling, Denak, if you haven't refilled your soda or drink or whatever you have, I would suggest doing it now because I have a feeling that we are going to be.
I have a big bottle of water here just for these occasions so I can make sure my throat is nice and lubricated here. Now we're going to be watching Manuel Benavides and Elias Vena here having a bit of a fight here with our 5-minute warm-up here. Actually, it's going to be Manuel Benavides going with a big slide into Oak Tree here, so they're not going to be fighting instead. Instead, it's going to be Elias Vena just going themselves nice and calm through into the back straight here, hoping now heading towards roller coaster. So I think they might be looking out of time. It might be able to do one more lap here before it's going to be time for our feature race. With again, the first top 10 here. So do you think Jordan Johnson, Philip Peckerwood, and Sarvan people are going to be having a chance at the race win? Do you think they can cut their way through the field?
I don't know. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either they cut through the field and they fight it out to the very end like they did the last time, or it's going to be a very big crash early on. I will give them hats off.
Don't jinx it. That's the worst thing you can say.
I mean, I've commentated cursed worse, so I'm not worried. I am 1000% not worried.
We'll see. 30 seconds left to go here, so I'm pretty sure that as soon as the timer hits 5 minutes, we're going to be getting ourselves into the gridding part of the race, which is going to be about a 2-minute grid slot. So then we can have another official grid walk through there. But you can see last minute just bouncing on the exit of the NASCAR bend there, now going themselves to the left fork now towards Snake. They're going right up into the edge of the track here. So I think somebody who's going to be gaining the most precision, that's going to be Elias Vena, because they're going to be starting all the way down at the back of the pack there because they couldn't get themselves the result they wanted here. Also, Electroshock's another car that I think they were just shy of getting into that top 10 spot there. So they're going to be another potential gainer off the track here. And I think the best thing that these cars just outside the top 10 can wish for, they could like capitalize on the chaos there to get themselves to the field. But somebody who's going to be probably feeling a lot of pressure, that's going to be those people starting at the very front there. That's going to be Nico Lopez, and that's going to be Bonucci and all those other cars there. So let's see how well they handle being under pressure from almost a 10K iRating driver.
Yeah, let's see. And not only that, three drivers that have been very, very interested or very close to each other as far as pace goes. It'll definitely make things interesting.
Now, going
As we
through our
go,
top 10 again here, that's going to be Inigo Lopez starting in first place. He's joined up alongside Vagiano in P2. That's going to be Nubi in P3, Toombi in P4, Vossi Tikris and Rafael Rodriguez going to be running out the top 5 in P5 and P6 respectively. Baru Sitonen starting in P7 there, joined up alongside Sarvan People are going to be our big front fight there. That's going to be Sarvan People. It's going to be P9, it's going to be Philip Becker both there, joined up alongside by Jordan Shaw. This is going to be the fight we're going to be keeping our focus on. Right behind, that's going to be one of Cabal Sim Sports. They're starting in P11, joined up alongside by Electro Shock in P12. In P30, we have Parker also. They're not quite the best race they would have wanted to hope for, so hopefully they can get themselves a better run there. Going up in the feature race, that's going to be joined up alongside by Futaku in P14, Niklas Zahn in P15. Quite a quiet race for them and also for Christian Clippert there in P16, so hopefully they can get some more gains there. Elias Vena, the big incident from the first day, is going to be dropping them all the way back down into the field. There's going to be then starting in P7, they joined up alongside by Charger in P18, another car that suffered a lot of incident. That's going to be Murskulohe Garle. So hopefully they can also cut their way through the field. And that's going to be go! That's going to be an incredibly fast start. I can't do the fucking start here. Apologies for language, but it's going to be Inigo Lopez leading the whole packet. There's going to be cars going 3, almost 4 wide, going down into the horseshoe bend there. It's going to be
Jordan with an amazing dive. Oh, there's trouble.
Spinning. I think that was also going to be, that's going to be Giando there, going sideways all the way to the back of the practice gear. That's going to be disaster for them. That's going to be now Inigo Lopez trying to make their way through. It's going to be Sarvan People, also now Fossi Tigris and Rafael Rodriguez there, now going side by side through to NASCAR and over to the left.
Oh,
Okay,
there's
it's going
trouble
to be
in
another
the
car. I
back
think
too.
that was also one of in the background there, also losing the car. That's going to be a bit of bodywork lost from those cars there, but it seems like most of the other cars have made their way through. It's going to be Fossi Tigris also going off the track and now going side by side with Rafael Rodriguez there. It's going to be worse.
Oh, there's trouble! There's trouble!
It's Philip! They're both gone! They both crashed in the wall there! That's a disaster! But there's going to be both of them losing all the progress they gained there. That's going to be Inigo Lopez, Sarvan Vieplan, Matumbi, and Nubi there in the front of the field here. That's an insane start! Oh my lord!
It looked like Philip tried to make a move on the outside, and I think a driver may like given him contact or something, but unfortunately it collected Jordan Johnson as well, and that led to a very big incident. And that's good news for Sarah. I don't know about for everyone, for anyone else, but look who gained the most. It is Indigo Lopez. They have almost a second lead to Newbie and them as we see Sarah Von Viepla try to make a move on roller coaster on the outside. They're going to have a little bit of a move on the inside, but I don't think there's going to be anything going. Heading down toward Hogpen, looking toward the inside, and as you can see, Sarah gets a little bit wide. They're trying desperately to try to make a move, but there's just been nothing going at the moment. Heading down toward turn 1, and we're gonna make it 3 wide. No, we're not. Heading down into turn 1. This has been huge so far. Sarah desperately trying to make a move, and you see Newbie, I think, wisely just deciding to let Sarah Von Vieplan through. They are the faster driver, so they aren't going to be able to hold them off for long, which means Sarah has open air for a
Now we're
little
going
bit
to be
until
heading
they
over
catch up
into
to
the field
Indigo.
to see what exactly had happened between Philip Beckham and Jordan Jones here. They're going to be watching from the onboard of Philip Beckham here. They're going to be going too wide through this naked. This is never going to be happening.
Oh!
Well, it looks like they already had an incident there at that point, so we're not quite sure what happened there. But I think, I mean, the main thing, you're going side by side through the snake is never going to be a good idea, and that seems to be costing Jordan Johnson and Philip Beckham quite dearly because they're going to be all the way down at the back of the pack here with massive damage, and they're going to have to use their faster bear and go put the pit in. I think also Vossi Tigris also has had some incident there also because I think they were at the pit lane, someone also using their own faster pairs, so hopefully they can make themselves back into the field. But that's going to be now Inigo Lopez and Sarah Von People side by side going down the back straight here, heading towards roller coaster. It looks like Inigo Lopez just try as they might, they just don't have the pace that Sarah Von People has there, so it looks like Sarah Von People might have got the better launch of these two cars there, unless no, Inigo is not giving up. They're still there, they're still side by side. They're going to try to challenge themselves into roller coaster, but it looks like in the end Inigo Lopez backed out, so it's going to be now Tumbi, Newbie, Rafal right behind. That's going to be the next target for the cars to for Inigo Lopez to try and defend from, because now it's going to be Sarah Von People escaping out into the front. There's going to be nobody else trying to challenge their pace there because all of their rivals have crashed at the start of the race. So that's going to be now Inigo Lopez trying to defend. Now from Toombi, now going side by side, heading into the horseshoe bend there. Inigo Lopez hugging that deep inside line. They're just forcing Toombi to go on the long outside line there. So it looks like Inigo Lopez is managing themselves to just barely stay ahead. They're going to be almost touching bumpers going through. That's going to be also Newbie and Rafael going side by side in the background as well. That's going to be outside, now turning into inside. Rafael Rodriguez managing to squeeze their way through into the left NASCAR bend through to the left hook here. So it's going to be an overtake for Rafael. Now going to be Newbie slotting themselves down into P5 trying to follow this gaggle of cars here. That's going to be back now to Toombi, to Inigo Lopez here. Now going through the SS there, the snake. They're a bit wide, a bit loose here from Inigo Lopez. They're closing themselves a bit of speed, a little bit of the straight line speed here. It's going to be giving opportunity for Toombi. They're going to be just there, right there in their mirrors, just trying to unsettle Inigo Lopez. I'm pretty sure they're forcing them to make a mistake so they can just make themselves push their way through here, but it looks like nothing's happening so far. They're just biding their top here. A big launch from Rafael Rodriguez going down the south bend towards turn 11 through to Oak Tree. It looks like, it's going to be...
they both go wide.
They're both go off. They're both going to be hitting the wall there. It's going to be the Banu, Sidon, and Elias Veda saying thank you very much. I'm going to be taking this position right away from you. That's going to be Elias Veda just making that recovery drop that we were just talking about earlier. But you can see now it's going to be Newbie chasing down Rafael Rodriguez, going down that main back straight there, trying to challenge them into the roller coaster. It's going to be almost touching bumpers with Newbie just forcing them all the way to the extreme outside there, just trying their way to go to get there ahead. But it's going to be now inside, turning into the outside, again turning to the inside, again still stays side by side. And that's going to be advantage for Rafael Rodriguez there. It looks like in the end Newbie Nick decided to back out from there, not fight that position, but that was a bold move there, but they just lost even more time because now it's going to be Banu Sidon joining this fight as well for the top two of the grid here. It's going to be again going side by side now, going through the main straight here. Newbie Nick trying to just get themselves as much slipstream as possible to try and challenge that round on the outside here, but it's going to be now again backing out in the end, so it's going to be a 4-car battle there for P2.
Yeah, absolutely. Here it is. This is going to be, I think, the big battle here going for P2. Philip Beckerville, Rafael Rodriguez and Newbie are definitely keeping each other sane as we head out into the S's, as we have a little bit of a fight going on here. It looks like Pescetti is going to try to make a move on the outside, and oh man, I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to keep up as we see Pescetti trying to make him catch up to this little gaggle of cars ahead as Philip Becker, both of them go wide, going into Oak Tree.
It's Rafael Rodriguez there. Rafael is going all the way on the outside of the south bend. They're going on the gravel. That's going to be costing them a long time. There's going to be a big oversteer moment from them as well, which is going to be giving an opportunity for Newbie to get right up alongside, trying to use that little bit of that slipstream there. So now again, the fight has reawoken. That's going to be, that's a slowdown. Rafael had a slowdown, so they're going to be losing all the time they gained there in the front there. It's going to be giving a free position, not only to Newbie, but to Toombi, to Pescetti. That's going to be losing 3 positions in one mistake there. So it's going to be a disastrous run for Rafael, so they're going to have to just try to get their pace back on, trying to get back out of the fight here. But somebody who's been paying many dividends from this fight, that's going to be Sarah Van Fiebler there at the very front there. 3 seconds clear of Newbie there, so there's not going to be nobody else challenging in the immediate near future. That's going to be now Toombi chasing down Newbie, going down the main straight here with also Pescetti, Rafael, Elias, all of them in that same fight for this P2 position here. That's going to be Toombi trying to get as close as possible, but there does not seem to be enough space for them to make a move to stick there. But it's going to be Rafael Rodriguez there having a peek up on the inside of Pescetti, Banu Sidon, and they're just trying to, with Pescetti now clinging onto the outside. There's got to be now outside, turning into the inside, going into the
that's not good.
It's going to be both of them going off into the barriers here. That's going to be another retirement for these 2 cars. The first race was insane. That's going to be utter carnage for the second race.
Absolute carnage. That looked like Pescetti just tried to make the move, and I don't know if it was netcode or something else, but I can see on a time screen Rafael Rodriguez has a meatball, so I think they unfortunately hit the wall when they spun. Super unfortunate. A really, really rough race for Pescetti. Now following this battle here between Toombi and Newbie for P2, as you can see, Sarah has officially checked out of this race. Not a lot of anything to worry about at this point, as we follow along now with Toombi, looking for maybe a move later down the line, but I don't think they're going to have anything here in the back straight. Following Toombi close behind, but it looks like, I actually just noticed, I think they may have a little bit of damage on their nose. I don't think it's going to affect them much, but it's definitely not something you want.
heading down toward Hogpen. Now very, very wide going into the last corner, heading down toward the main straight. And I don't think there's going to be any move going here, but it's definitely going to be close.
That nose has definitely been booped and scrunched a little bit there, so they may have lost a bit of performance on their car here. But that does not seem to be concerning Newbie quite a lot there. So they're still hanging on, just trying to chase down Newbie there ahead of them. They look to be getting really, really close going down into NASCAR Bend. They're just trying to angle for a best approach. I think their best opportunity is going to be going through left hook through the snake there, just trying to maybe make a move into turn 7 and 8 there if they're feeling very bold there, or just following themselves close enough until they can just get themselves the best launch going through Oak Tree and then get that move stick there. But you can also see in the back, that's going to be Elias Vena all the way up in P4 already. I think they started back in P40. They've gained 13 positions throughout this entire race. That's also going to be Nicholas Zahn in P5 there. So really huge gains from these cars there with a big contrast. That's going to be also Giando all the way down in P15 with also Vossi Dikris, Balusito, and Filippo George also all the way down at the back here. It's going to be Newbie going all the way to the ground there, going down South Bend there. That's trying to defend hard, going into Oak Tree there. It's going to be a very poor exit from Newbie, giving an opportunity for Newbie to get right up into the bumper of that black and golden yellow colored Porsche there. They're going to be going side by side. It's going to be a drag race down the main straight there. Just try with they're going to be now Newbie trying to get on the outside. It's going to be them touching doors.
This is not what you want to do.
There, straight in paint and scraping. No fear at all with all these cars. It looks like Toombi making a final dive up into the roller coaster. Newbie finally conceded the position and giving the position P2 over to Toombi. That's going to be time for them to chase down Sarva with 20 minutes left of the race to go.
Yeah, 20 minutes left, and we've got it's a little bit calmer than race 1, but it's still not over, and the battles have not ended at all. This middle pack is definitely going to be a very much a pack to kind of keep an eye on, as we are following along now with Charter, who has had on first race a fairly quiet race, and now they are fighting against Wanev, who I think had a little bit of an incident going early on in lap 1. It looks like Charter's going to try to make a move on the outside, but no going there. Wanev doing a great job in keeping the inside line and making it hard for them, but unfortunately, that's not going to help them much, because guess what? Guiando's right on their tail, now trying to make a move, but there was nothing there, but they're right on the bumper. You can see that they're trying desperately to make a move. Here we go, going to left hook. That's going to be very close. Going into left hook, there was almost contact. Good job by Guiando for not hitting them, because that could have ended so badly as we get along now with the lead pack, as we see Elias Venya catching up to the fight between Newbie and Toombi. Should make things a little bit more interesting as they head down the main straight, but I don't think there's going to be anything going there, as I think somebody went into the grass a little bit, but I don't think by much.
I think there may have been Toombi going on the grass a little bit there. You can also see a lot of battle damage on those cars, so a lot of hard boops done onto the front bumpers of these Porsche. You can see a lot of dirt, a lot of scuff on that mint green colored Porsche there. Now, it looks like Elias Vena has been able to finally capitalize on those incidents happening ahead of them. They're going to be all the way up in P4, and they seem to be quite a lot faster than all of these other cars. So looking at their last lap times here, Elias Vena got themselves a 46.5. Meanwhile, the car 7 only got themselves 47. So Elias Vena definitely has the pace there. Now it's going to be down to getting themselves around Newbie and Toombi there with about almost halfway through the race. They still have a bit of time there, but whether or not they're going to be having enough time to catch up to Sarva View, we're going to have to that remains to be seen here, because at the front there, I can also see on my time sheet there, Sarva View has been doing consistent 46, low 46 this entire race there. So I think, barring any major mistake and maybe a moment with some lap traffic, I think Sarva View is going to be just comfortably cruising to the end.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, though, that Toombi has been fairly close. Not by much, but fairly close. But I don't think there's going to be enough to gain on Sarah Van Vliet. So right now, they've just got to focus on keeping these two behind them. As you can see, Elias Venya trying desperately in the S's to make a move, as we see Toombi go wide. This is going to make things very interesting now, heading down toward Oak Tree. And now, look at this, Elias Venya went wide, went very wide. That's going to be so unfortunate. They had the momentum going into the corner, but they overshot
and now they've got so much time to gain. And now, as well, I believe that is Nicholas Zahn trying to take advantage and try to gain a little bit of distance or gain a little bit of ground on Elias Venya as we see Newbie catching up to Toombi, and we're gonna probably have a battle once again for P2.
That looked more to be like Elias Vena just got caught up by how slow Newbie was going into Oaktree and that they had to just back out and go wide there. So fortunately, no incident between them, but they did lose quite a lot of ground there. But it also looks like Toombi may have had a slowdown going so wide off in the gravel in South Bend there, which enabled Newbie to catch up to them again. Again, this fight has relit between these two competitors here, with also Elias Vena there in the background trying to get themselves as close as possible to also re-enter this top 3 fight here. Also in the background, we also see even more fighting happening between Katie Timberfox. There's going to be Kristen Clippard, the two Tinker racing cars there, going side by side through. That's going to be Horseshoe now again, still side by side. Now heading
Are we
down
having a
into
10K
NASCAR
meet
Bend
again?
Yeah, no, we're gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. I promise it's gonna be fine. But Christian Clippard finally backing out at the end. A bit of a wiggle from Keely Timberfox there on the exit of NASCAR Bend there. Now over to that left hook. But it looks like Christian Clippard got a much better launch going through left hook now towards the snake section here, which is gonna be then a bit of a buff of grass there with Katie Timberfox they're trying to extend their track limits as much as possible, but it looks like Katie managed to finally get themselves ahead of this gaggle of cars there. And now it's going to be now chasing down. That's going to be Lewis Adeline a couple of seconds ahead here. But with about 50 minutes left after the race to go, and their pace not looking to be that much faster compared to Lewis Adeline. This could be the final position that Katie is going to be in. But now we're going to be going to a fight between Lewis Adeline and Inigo Lopez. Former teammates now turned rivals. Now Lewis Adeline chasing down their former team boss, going down the long back straight there with Inigo Lopez previously starting in P1 all the way now down in P where are they? P9, yeah. So not quite the result they would have hoped for, but I think to be expected with all the very fast cars behind them. But that's going to be now Lewis Adeline just trying to get closer and closer, heading through Lower Costa through 14, 15, 16, towards Hawkpen, 17 and 18, just trying to line themselves up, going all the way down there, trying to carry as much speed as possible, going into the wide. I think a bit of an understeer from Inigo Lopez there that compromised their exit, which is now giving an opportunity for Lewis Adeline to chase down Inigo Lopez there more and more and more, but it does not look like it's going to be close enough for them to make a cent there. They had a bit of a peek there, showing themselves in the mirrors here, trying to unsettle Inigo Lopez perhaps, but there's no change in position yet. You can also see the rear bumper of that Porsche has been moved quite hard as well, so lots of scrunched bodywork there, but it looks like they're still going on fine.
So I think Indigo had a moment early on.
Why do you keep calling Indigo? It's Inigo. Know your own team boss's name.
I have an accent. What do you want from me? I have an accent.
It's okay.
Anyway, they I think had an incident early on, because I remember I had my other screen up for the main, as you know, we have our we are also in game, and I happened to notice it almost looked like they had slid off into NASCAR Bend and slid into the wall, which cost them a lot of positions. But now it is a battle of the Philippines, and it is definitely, it was very close, but I think Lewis Adeline had an incident, or not incident, a moment early on, and I think it cost them a lot of it time, and now they're going to have to try to regain all that time lost.
I'm also pretty sure that this is Lewis Adeline's literally very first race in iRacing. They talked a lot about in the briefing about how iRacing works as a simulator. So this is gonna be a very strong first time race for Lewis Adeline. They're sitting in P10, chasing down their former team boss in P9 there. So we're with about 12 minutes left of the race to go here. There's going to be plenty of time for Lewis Adeline to catch back up to Inigo Lopez there, trying to make another sendway. But there's going to be not much of a gap at the moment here. But now we're going to be going to another fight. That's going to be now between Charger chasing down. That's going to be Myrsky Lohigarre. Myrsky Lohigarre, again, seemed to have another incident early on in the race that cost them quite a lot of position here. So again, they're on another recovery drive here. But looking at our previous lap times here, comparing between Charger and Myrsky, if I can just look at my relatives here. Yeah, last lap times for Charlotte was a 46.7, and then for Murslika, that's going to be a 46 flat. So I don't think there's going to be much chance for Charger to chase down there. But you can see ahead of them, there's going to be the cars of one of Giando there right ahead of them. It's going to be slowing Mursku down a little bit there. So that could be a chance for Charger to capitalize in any more mistakes here. You can see Mursku just extending those track limits all the way to the edge there. A bit of a puff of gravel there going down now through to the Snake S's there, just again trying to use as much trash as possible there. With also a car blinking ahead of them, so this is the last thing you want to be seeing when you're fighting. Is going to be car with connection issues here, because they could just be appearing at any moment there, causing a lot of havoc. So Mursku probably feeling a little bit sweaty there, but all they can do is just pray for it, just try to get around this slower car as fast as possible.
Yeah, it is a horrifically terrifying moment when you see the guy ahead of you that you need to fight is blinking, because that is the most terrifying thing to think of, is we are going to be getting back to the main battle, as it looks like Newbie has gotten ahead of Toombi at some point and now is doing their best to defend, as we see also Elias Venya has also caught up to this little pack, and it is now a battle for the podium between, I believe it will be, if the two behind them catch up, it'll be a 5-way battle for the top 3 spot, or for the bottom 3 spots. And now it should be very interesting to see what they can do. Is Toombi again trying to make a move in the NASCAR bend, or at least trying to make Newbie think that, because they didn't get the job done, but they're right on the bumper of Elias, or on the bumper of Toombi. This is going to be a very interesting battle as we head down toward the S's. Look at the momentum Elias has going into the S's. This is going to make things even more interesting, because the momentum is just so much. They got so much of a better exit going into the S's. You can see them get launched heading down toward the Oak Tree section, heading up that little corner, that blind left-hander, heading up toward Oak Tree. And now it looks like maybe there's going to be a move. If Venya can get a little bit more momentum, this could be the moment, but I don't think there's going to be enough gap. Heading down toward the main straight, it's going to be Newbie and Toombi trying again, but I don't think, again, there's going to be a little bit of a moment unless Toombi absolutely sends it. Heading down toward the main straight, heading down toward Roller Coaster. It looks like Toombi's just going to settle in for the time being and wait for another opportunity to rise.
Only a couple tenths separating between Toombi and Newbie here, so Toombi is probably biding their time again, waiting for a better opportunity going down to the main straight. There's going to be less than 2 tenths between them, so this could be the best chance for Toombi to get around Newbie again, to re-inherit the P2 here. There's going to be now Toombi going wide on the outside there, with Newbie taking the defensive inside line there, so it's going to be harder for Toombi to try and make a move to stick around there, but they might be angling for a cutback here, with Newbie going wide on the exit of the horseshoes there, but it's not going to be enough for Toombi to make a move to stick there, so they're going to be again sliding right behind them, now going down through NASCAR bend, through to the left hook there, with again no changes in position here, but they're going to be going sideways onto the curb there.
Oh my
God. But they
God.
managed to catch it just in time there, but then the more they're going to be fighting there, trying to fight the car, fighting each other, that's going to be Elias Vena, also Niklas Zot and Electroshock in the background. They're also trying to getting closer and closer to also join this P2 fight there. Now it's going to be Toombi again, a couple of tenths behind, now going down the mid straight here towards the Triple O Rouge there, towards South Bend. In a bit, you're going to be seeing very closely if they're going to be keeping their car nice and hooked on the blind left-hander. They seem to be all keeping themselves in control. There's going to be now that very important braking zone heading into Oak Tree here, just trying to line themselves for the best possible exit. Again, it's going to be about 3 tenths there, so I don't think it's going to be quite enough for Toombi to make a move to happen here, but the gap is shrinking down a lot. It looks like Newbie didn't get quite as good of an exit as Toombi had there in the end here, so this could be an opportunity for Toombi. They're going to be inching themselves closer, down to a tenth now. They're going to be Toombi now on the outside. They're trying to challenge going into the bend here, but it's going to be now outside.
Oh!
A big send into the roller coaster. They're managing to just stay ahead of Newbie and chop their nose off. That's going to be a position gain back into P2, but that's going to be Elias Vena joining this fight here for P2 and P3 and P4 there. trying to also get around Newbie there, but it looks like Tubi's managed to get a nice launch going through Hawkman now on the main straight here, so it's not going to be a challenge from Newbie, but there might be a challenge from Elias Vena going down to the main straight here, other than just touching the grass there on the inside of that little right kink there before going down into the horseshoe bend there, but that's not going to be quite enough for them to make a move to happen here, so it's going to be, again, Elias Vena inching themselves closer. That's going to be 1/10, 2/10, almost touching the bumper of Newbie there, trying to just force Newbie to take that defensive line on the inside there to prevent Elias Vena from overtaking. It's going to be playing well into Toombi's hand there, extending that gap even more. But somebody who's been playing who's had all this fight playing very well into their hand, that's going to be Sarah Fiedland, almost 6 seconds ahead of everybody else here, with nobody else to challenge them. With also Elias Vena now looking for an angle to go around side by side.
There's no way.
The snake going into the very twisty SS section. They're going to be side by side, but it seems like Elias Vena managed to just stay ahead, but there's going to be a very deep on the inside there. That could be a slowdown for Elias Vena, so that could be a disaster for them. We're going to be watching very closely what's going to be happening as they go down through Southbend. They're heading over into Oak Street, but it looks like Elias may have just gotten away with that and not had to serve that slowdown. We're going to be watching again, going very wide on the exit of Oak Street there. But let's see, I think they may be fine. I think they don't have any slowdown they need to serve there. But now it's going to be Niklas Zahn and Electroshock right behind Newbie. So Newbie hemorrhaging positions and speed. But that's going to be them have to defend even more cars behind them, just trying to hold on without Elias Vena now unleashed to chase down Newbie to hopefully get themselves P2.
Yeah, hopefully, but Newbie isn't done yet. They definitely are going to try to fight for that P3 spot, heading down the hill toward Roller Coaster. And, oh man, it is wild, heading down toward the main straight, looking for a move. And I don't think Elias is going to have a move, but maybe Newbie might. Coming down toward the main straight, heading into turn 1. Are they going to try to go deep? No, they are not. They are just going to sit behind and wait for Elias to maybe make a mistake or go a little bit wide. They've got 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left in this race to make a move and try to secure that podium spot as we head down toward left hook. Looks like so far, so good. This has been the closest that the three of them have gotten. Or I should say the farthest these three have gotten since the race start. And now it looks like things have kind of evened out a little bit as we see Elias once again take that curve and go a little airborne. Now
a little bit of airtime gain there, but it does look like Elias Vena is slowly inching themselves closer to be in P2 there. The gap is now down to 9/10, about 8/10. They're now going to be down making use of that slipstream on this long main straight here. So that's gap is going to be shrinking down even more, but not going to be quite enough there to make a send this lap. But a couple more laps there, this could be a chance for Elias Vena to finally get themselves up into P2 that they had been hoping to do in the original sprint race there. So we can be watching that very closely. You can also see in the background that's going to be Electroshock chasing down Niklas Zahn there for P5 of the race here. A couple of tenths separating them as well, but it's not going to be quite enough for overtake to happen. We're going to be keeping our attention on Elias Vena here, now going through Roller Coaster, through to Hawkben, trying to just carry as much momentum, just trying to keep themselves on that tight inside line. They're drifting out into the outside line there. Using all of the track there with a bit of a wheel on grass moment there, but they seem to have paid dividends because now the gap has shrunken down to only 7/10 there. Now they're in the slipstream for the Porsche ahead of them, so it's going to be now down to Toombi to try and put their elbows out there, defend as much as possible there once they get into striking range.
It has been intense. It has been insane. Both races has kept us on our seats, and we have 3 minutes left of this race before we finally get to breathe. And it looks like it's not going to end yet. Here we go. Elias Vena is going to try to maybe make a move going through the snakes to try to gain a little bit of ground, but it looks like no luck so far. It looks like they just weren't able to get the momentum. Somebody, I think, went very wide, though. I don't know who it was, but I definitely did see a little bit of gasket taken as we see Newbie go wide, though. That was very wide from Newbie. Going out of the corner, heading into Oak Tree. It looks like things are going to stabilize now, but as we see, as I say that, Elias Vena go very wide going out of Oak Tree. It's going to cost them a lot of momentum, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Newbie to make any meaningful ground. as we head
Somebody was
down
trying to make
toward the
front.
grid,
Gonna
as
be
that's
Phil
Phil
Beckavold now going
Beckavold.
side by side with Vossi Tickers, going through the SS section here, almost losing the car here. I think they managed to get themselves around Banusito, and they're going down into South Bend, now into Oak Tree here. So Vossi Tickers just trying to defend from the much faster Philip Beckavold. Almost touched bumpers. They're going into Oak Tree there. Almost another contact when they already had their huge incident at the start of the race here. So not quite a move to make here, but Banusito is going to be now right behind Philip Beckavold there, but I don't think there's going to be enough space because Philip Beckavold does get the toe from Vossi Tickers as well there, so there's not going to be a chance for Banusito then to try and make a move to around the outside or inside there through the back straight there. So they're going to just slot themselves behind Philip Beckavold again, trying for another opportunity to get a move to the thick here. But there's only going to be 2 laps left of this race here. They're going to have to probably make a big hustle here if they want to have themselves gain any more position here. This looks like a bit of a poor exit from Ositikis on Hogman onto the main straight here. So that's going to be a chance for Philip Beckavold to try and get close, to try and get side by side with Philip Beckavold. It's going to be Philip Beckavold now on the inside. Ositikis trying to take that outside line there. I don't think it's going to be quite working well there because that's going to be Philip Beckavold taking the much better, faster inside line. There's going to be Philip Beckavold through into P50 thereafter, started themselves all the way up in P10 and losing themselves all the way back down to the back of the field here. So it's going to be one position gain here, but I think that could be the last one they have here because we only have 30 seconds left of the race here before it's going to be 30 minutes up there. We're going to be watching, hopefully we can see where Sarah Van Fiepelen is to see when the white flag is going to be happening here. It's going to be, they're going down the main street here, so I think it's going to be just in time. I think this is going to be the last lap here. We're going to be watching that very closely. Yeah, it's only going to be 10 seconds left here. So this is going to be the last lap here with Sarah Van Fiepelen, the uncontested leader of this race here. They managed to keep their nose skin. They cut their way through the field all the way back down from P8, went through Jordan, went through Philip, went through Inigo, Tumbi, Nubi, everybody on the grid here to get themselves a dominant win here. Now going down to that final quarter here onto the main straight here, unleashing their Porsche Boxster car one last time there. It's going to be a well-deserved victory wiggle from Sarah People. A very good win for them. That's going to be right behind. That's going to be Toombi managing to hold on to the P2. It doesn't look like Elias Vena was able to get their pace down, but it's going to be again a fight now between Philip Beckavold and Charger now going side by side into the roller coaster corner, but it looks like Luis at Charger there, they're just backing out from them, not fighting the position in the area. So it's going to be one last overtake from Philip Beckavold there, going through roller coaster onto the Hawkman here. So quite a good final recovery here. We also see in the top up we have Luke in P4, Electroshock in P5, and also Parker Olsen in P6, Putaku P7, Inigo Lopez managing to claw their way back up into P8 after starting P1 here. So good recovery from them. And also Katie Timberfox managing to get themselves into the top 10 as well. So good job from the Critica Racing cars there. That's going to be Philip Beckavold crossing the finish line in P13, Charlie behind them in P14. Was Dickers in P15 now, Bonusito and Nursku and one of now finishing now with a big sideways going down into the exit of the corner here. Now it's going to be Jordan Johnson. Unfortunate run from them. Also, at some point, Nicholas Zahn seems to have retired because they are down in P20. Not quite sure what happened to them, but Jordan Johnson, the unluckiest driver of the grid at the moment here. They had themselves a good chance to get themselves back onto the top of the grid there to fight. But unfortunately, no points, no win for them. But at least they got the win in first round, so in the first race. So better luck next time.
Yeah, unfortunate events going into race 2. This is going to be this is also going to be a huge thing for the championship. Because remember, he gets individual points for each race. So that means because of this will more than likely be Jordan's drop round unless something else happens. And now we're also going to be, it's definitely going to be interesting going on because the next race will be, I believe it is Hockenheim. I could be wrong.
It's going to be Snetterton.
Oh, it's Snetterton. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to go to Snetterton, but we're going to be watching our feature race result. It's going to be Sarah People again, a dominant win with 5 seconds clear from everybody else here beside them. So congratulations to Sarah People again. That's going to be 2B P2, Elias Vane in P3, and Nubi P4, Electroshock in P5, rounding out our top 5. Currently, there's not going to be any points on display in our graphics here because that's going to be done later on in SimGrid, but all the way down into top 20, we're going to be using our standard Simufur point system. So for both races, you're going to be getting a maximum of getting lots of points all the way down into the top P20 position here. So with I think Wuxi got themselves a P2 in the last race, so they're going to be P1 in this race. So this is definitely not going to be a drop round for them.
It will be actually I believe they were P3 actually.
Yeah, P3 and P1 actually. Yeah, but anyway,
P3,
a really,
P1.
really good points haul for them. We also had a couple of retirements from I think it was also Zerusi, Rafael Rodriguez, Sierra Thomas, Luis Gordon, and Matti Alakops sadly did not complete the race in the end here. But we can also have a quick look on a reminder on our sprint race results that we had earlier here. So again, it was going to be Jordan Johnson that got the win on that first rally with Philip Beckerwood in P2, Sarban Fiblan in P3, with Panu Sweden in P4, Rafael Rodriguez P5, Vasily Tigris P6, 2B P7, Nubi P8, Giando P9, and Nico Lopez rounding out that top 10. So lots of exciting racing. You can see that reverse grid really caused a big stir in the order here for the
It
feature race.
did. Unfortunately, you can yell at me now, Denak, because I did technically commentator curse it. I did
I'm
technically
sure we're gonna be
commentate.
fine. Yeah,
I
just make
did.
sure you don't do that again. But anyway,
I'll
that's gonna
try.
be bringing us to the end of a very chaotic, very exciting, and very fun first round of our Simufur iRacing Porsche Cup. Tune in again next week when we're going to be doing the next one, which is going to be the Snedgerton layout. It's usually not the most favorite track of our drivers, but with a new sim, different kind of car here, maybe there's going to be some fun racing to happen there. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for next week. It's going to be so much fun. If this race could give us the exact excitement it did, I am terrified about what's going to happen for next week. I'm going to have to probably bring a bigger soda, I think. Because,
I think
oh
just water
man.
would be better for your throat instead of having sparkly soda. But that's going to be a worry for next time. For now, we're going to be wrapping up our stream here. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here. It was a very wonderful time to commentate here. Also, thank you for more in the background, taking care of all the camera angles and all of the live action on the track here. But yeah, tune in again next week. It's going to be Snedgerton. Be ready for that. It's going to be more fun. It's going to be more chaos. So until then, my name's Denak, joined by Wolfen, joined by Maurer here behind the cameras there. And that's going to be a good night.
All right. Have a good night.